themes, and I thought I saw mythological things in some movies we were viewing. And he said, if you're interested in that, you should go to the library and get that book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Campbell. And I flipped through it on the bus on the way home. And by the time I got off the bus, my life was changed, because this is what I was looking for. This was the kind of secret guidebook that told the skeletal structure that really defines what a story is to us. And then all the different cultures have made their variations on it. But it's something I feel very deeply ingrained in human beings. It's part of the brain. We evolved, I think, a level of the brain that processes the world in terms of stories. And there's a lot of scientific evidence of that coming in now. So that's the quest tale that I tell, that I was on that search. And then it helped me so much when I started working for the studios, and I was tasked to read a lot of scripts and write reports on them. And I'm so grateful that I had Campbell's outline as sort of a guidepost for this, because it made that job a lot easier.
The first time I ever heard George Lucas talk about Star Wars being inspired by Joseph Campbell, I thought, oh, stop already. Yeah. You don't have to be the professor. You wrote a great outer space movie. And now every time I see it, it's so obvious to me. All of the hero's journey paradigms and ideas, they're right there.
They certainly are. And I guess, lucky in that I had just absorbed Campbell's book when that first Star Wars movie came out. And Lucas himself had gone to the same film school, the USC cinema school. And he had been there 10 years before I got there. So he was way ahead of me. But he very generously invited the whole school and the faculty to come and see this new movie, Star Wars. And we were worried about it because we thought he'd lost his mind, because nobody was doing movies like that at the time. This was the era of
a serious director, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He had done American Graffiti, which is a great exploration of pop culture and nostalgia and so forth. And he was giving indications he was going to go a different way. And then suddenly we read in the trades, he's doing this old-time Flash Gordon movie serial about some Princess Leia Organa of the universe. And we just thought he'd lost his mind. So we went and saw it. But and everybody reacted, realizing, oh, our whole careers are going to be different now. The possibilities are blown open. You can do anything with this new medium of special effects. But I saw it with a different view because I had just read Campbell. And I'm just going, by the time they got to the cantina, I said, he's definitely read Campbell's book and he's just ticking the boxes on all these points. And he's found a way to make it commercial. And I thought that was fantastic. That's very much the impulse I had was, it's great academic thinking, but it's also something very practical and can be used on modern stories as well as fantasies and historical stuff. So that was my realization about it.
Speaking of monster hits, you worked on The Lion King, am I right?
Yes, that was a kind of a high watermark for me of my time at Disney. I was there for a long time, over 10 years, but I had worked my way up from the routine job of reading scripts and writing reports to a little bit more almost in the executive category, where they gave me special assignments. I did a lot of research. If they needed to know about comic books, they'd tell me, just go out and buy every comic book printed this month and give us a report on what are the trends, what's coming down the line. So I had this kind of unique position in the company, but I wrote a memo because we communicated in memos within the studio framework. And so I wrote a memo explaining Campbell's ideas as a guideline for any kind of movie, modern or period piece or fantasy, whatever. It was going to be my attempt to lay out a universal code or algorithm is what we would call it today. And that memo went around and became viral within the studio. and eventually ended up in front of the head of the company at that time, the head of production, Jeffrey Katzenberg. And he threw me in with the animation people. He said, this is a good match. And they're working on this picture right now that was called something different. It wasn't The Lion King. I think it was called King of the Jungle or something like that at that time. But it ended up being The Lion King. And I thought I would have a sales job to do. I thought I'd have to go in there and explain my whole theory. But when I walked in, that memo had already penetrated. And the first thing I saw in the lobby was a cork board with the drawings for The Lion King already pinned up to it. And they had outlined the whole thing by my 12-stage Hero's Journey deal. So they were already pre-sold, and I didn't have to convince them. But they turned the whole thing over to me one afternoon. They got out the old furniture from Disney's day, and I actually sat in Walt Disney's chair and looked at their presentation. And they asked me, what do you think? And so I gave them my thoughts. And some of that found its way into the movie. There are a few shots and scenes that are really there because I made these suggestions. And they'd already animated a lot of it. But they said, he's right. Everybody knew when I said some of these suggestions that it was right, because all the animators started drawing pictures of these things as soon as I mentioned them. Just intuitively, they said, oh, that's good, I'll draw that. So they stopped production and retooled and put in some of these ideas. For example, in the opening scene, the famous Circle of Life, there's a baboon shaman, I think he's a baboon, Rafiki, who picks up the lion cub and holds it up and shows everybody. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if at the climax of the music, a shaft of light comes out of the cloud? And they said, oh man, we've already animated this completely, but that's so good we have to stop and put it in. So I scored a few points on that one, and that was a great treat to be involved that way.
What a wonderful thing to have an influence on this spectacularly successful film that then became a spectacular stage show and has been remade as a movie and about 1,400 other incarnations. That's going to be around forever.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm very pleased that one idea I threw out in that meeting ended up in the stage play being brilliantly realized. I said that the land has to be affected by the evil guy taking over, Scar, the bad lion. His rule would be so toxic that even the water holes would dry up. So the animators drew that. But in the stage play, they realized it very simply by simple stage magic. They just put a big piece of blue fabric on the, like parachute silk. They put that on the stage to represent the watering hole. And then they had drilled a hole in the middle of the stage under it. And somebody below the stage just pulled a string, and the whole blue water hole, so to speak, got sucked down to nothing and disappeared. And just that simple thing, a piece of fabric and a hole in the stage, created this magical effect. And I just love that. The simplest answers sometimes are the most magical.
Chris, I know a lot of people listening to this are writers or aspiring writers, and they're thinking, okay, this sounds wonderful. I want to enrich my work and produce the next Lion King or Star Wars. Where would you recommend that they start?
I think the starting place is best at the very beginning of your writing career to go to stuff, as they often say, as teachers rightly often say, and try to reach into something that you feel very passionate and strong about, because it's going to be a long march from wherever you're starting to finish something and get it to market, or just to finish it for your own satisfaction and then move on to something else. It's a long march. So it better be something that you really feel passionate about. And my state now, and I think a lot of people get to this stage, is you have a lot of projects you want to do. And when time is cleared, you freak out, like, which one should I do? And I always test them, like, where is the most energy? Where am I most excited? And that's the one I'm going to give my energy to now, because that's the horse that wants to run. So let's be sensitive to those things and go where you're most excited.
Mm-hmm. And then when you're fleshing that idea out, I'm just going to throw out, get a copy of The Writer's Journey, preferably the cool new 25th anniversary version.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah, and come to WriterCon and hear you speak there. That couldn't hurt either.
Yes, I'll be tossing out some old chestnuts, but some new things and things that are informed by my own writing career and my efforts to fan out a little bit from being a consultant and also be an author. I've written some things. I had an animated feature produced from a script I wrote in Europe, and I am in there pitching.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you for being on the podcast.
It's delightful. Thank you, William, and good luck with your conference coming up.
Okay, thanks. Thank you again, Chris, for being on the podcast. Let me just remind you, it is not too late to sign up for WriterCon. Please go to the website and see if there might be something at this conference that you want to see either in person or streaming at home. The website again is writercon.org. That's WRITERCON.org. And hey, while you're online, take a look at your favorite online bookseller and see if you might be interested in picking up a copy of Judge and Jury. This is the 5th Daniel Pike book. There's only going to be 6, so you don't want to fall behind. Take a look at Judge and Jury. Remember, until next time, keep writing. You cannot fail if you refuse to quit.